All right, Mr. Shannon. Wow, welcome back. I mean, since we've talked to you last, we've had some big earnings reports, man,
We
all
sure
last
have.
week, including Apple, which seems to be a little weak. We can talk a little bit about Apple, but just quickly, how was your day and how are you?
Day was good, profitable, and I'm doing well, Sean. So I was kind of surprised. I figured maybe you were, I called you out on Twitter saying it looked like maybe you were going to get involved in some of those NVIDIA plays off the VWAP today.
Yeah, you know what we were looking at? We actually had a great trade, and then good call. AMD also at 168 looked pretty
Mm.
nice. Did you want to talk about Nvidia? What set up, or whatever you want to talk about? Because hey, man, I miss trades all the time. I made 10 trades today, or 10 symbols today. Lucky enough to go 8 for 10. There's no way Brian Shannon trades 10 different symbols today, does he?
I traded five.
5, okay, okay.
Yeah,
That's fine. Double the man, but half the shares, half the shares. So that's Brian Shannon. Do you want to talk about maybe your best trade today? Do you mind going over maybe what you saw, or maybe not your best, but something that was
sure.
interesting for the viewers here? We'll screen share whenever you're ready.
Okay, I am ready. Here we can take a look at NVIDIA.
Perfect.
Speaking of that, originally I had purchased this stock for a swing trade over here on this day. I missed the day that it gapped up, but as it pulled back and got back above the VWAP that day, I bought a position and scaled out of 2/3 of it and have been raising my stops up with these green arrows. Today I was stopped out of the balance right there with a gain of $152.30 on the balance. So that was the biggest closeout for today. I've also got some of the CPRT from yesterday and looking ahead to, well, bought CRISP today.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that's got a big short position in it, Sean. I don't know if you know, it's got 21.5% or 17 million shares, and they've increased that from 13 million shares in October over in here. So they've added 4 million shares. So a good way to look at that is if they added 4 million shares from October, the
Yes.
average price since October is right here at 62, 61 and a half. So with the stock at 67, let's just call it, you've got to assume that those shorts are feeling heat from that 4 million shares they added in that point.
You just made myself and many of our viewers extremely happy because that is an absolute great setup. That's like a flat top break. We absolutely love that. Come over to my screen one more time, Brian. Great
Yeah.
call. Because you know what? If you look here, we had Danielle Shea on the show before, we were talking about this top with a firm. And the reason why I go over to a firm, very similar short float. You're in the 20s, you're in the 30s. When we broke this level right there of 20 bucks, we ripped to 25. That's a 20% move or higher right there on that move. Then we had this 25 level that we were looking at. Then once we broke 25, man, did we boom up there all the way to $50. I can honestly, I got to thank you from everybody here at Trader TV Live and the Market Recap Show. This, Brian, is why traders stay late. I really like that. And their report comes February 20th. This is now on my radar. I love that break of 67 if we can get it through 70, and then that break even greater than that, man. CRISPR Therapeutics. You've been on this for a while, as far as I remember. You seem to always talk to us about some of these therapeutics and IBB type of stocks. So great look right there. But that Affirm trade gives me confidence that maybe we could see the same thing here with CRISPR.
I like it. And if you look at my screen, I want to show
Sure.
you where a firm just pulled back to, Sean, because it's pretty amazing. That gap that occurred that you're talking about right here, look at the anchor from that point and how we touched it here, here, and then bam, 4 days ago. That was the low. That's why we keep an eye on those levels of interest. Over here, I wasn't interested in buying it. I'm not trying to make that point. But it's interesting to see that that's exactly where the buyers showed up here again for this stock. And today in NVIDIA, the low occurred where? Well, if we take a look at the month-to-date volume-weighted average price, which I always talk about, look at that.
That's a great, I mean, honestly, I was about to promote your book after, but Anchored VWAP, you know what? Actually, my memory's not the greatest. I've read this book. It's absolutely fantastic. I know you've been using VWAP and Anchored VWAP for a while. Is that something that you proprietarily developed? You were looking and you were thinking, hey, what about if we put the VWAP here or there or here or there? When did you come up with that? Was that something that, obviously took you a pretty long time? Because every time you come on here, you give us so many amazing plays off the anchored VWAP. Just maybe a quick little description of where you developed that from and where that all came from, because it's a really genius idea.
I didn't develop that. It was Paul Levine, Dr. Paul Levine.
Okay.
I had only been made aware of his work a couple of years ago when I was researching the book. But my introduction to it came kind of by accident on a platform called Realtic. Realtic I used, 20 plus years ago. And they had a trend tool that was, a drawing tool. And you would draw it, let's say you'd start it here and draw it straight across. Well, what would happen, Sean, is that arrow would go up and that line rather would go up and down. And it was calculating the volume weighted average price as a line.
Right.
So I looked at that and said, okay, if I start they allowed 1 day VWAP or, from one starting point. So I noticed if I put it to a 30-minute chart and started the chart 5 days ago, I had a 5-day VWAP. So I started experimenting around like at that. And then it was in 2015 that I convinced the good people at TC2000, whose software is right here, to put it on their software, the anchored VWAP by Alpha Trends. You can see this little arrow here on the right-hand control panel.
All right. I mean, I'm just responding now to your post about NVIDIA. Look, thank you so much for that. Sometimes we fall into our lap, and sometimes you just develop it like that, and that's an absolutely great call right there. I mean, here's the tweet from Brian tagging me, and my bad about that one, but look at that. Perfect, boom. Nice move there. And I love that you took a paltry $152 on that as well. I want to talk a little bit about this, because right now the Qs, you had a little bit of a talk here. Qs is at a level of interest. The IWM remains a dog. I agree with that, man. A lot of people looking at some of these smaller cap names, right? Maybe that's it. And then you and I, and a lot of people have talked about SMH and how exactly important that is to this market. We've been really going upside here with NVIDIA, AMD. I mean, we always talk about the same names, but why not go over to ETF land? What are you seeing here? You said overall we're pretty bullish, but near term, I kind of agree with you. I was short the SPY today. It was a great trade. It started to blast up at the end of the day, but I'm starting to favor shorts, Brian, just temporarily. Are we right with that? Let's digest some of these charts.
I think that for me personally, the shorts are a little bit early. We're still above the rising 5-day moving average on the SPY, on the Qs, and in the SMH. I had pointed out on this SMH chart today that a lot of people are looking at this and saying, "Hey, the semis are making a double top." A double top. You see, this is just a level where we've been previously. A double top isn't complete, according to a textbook example, until it breaks below this level right here. And then we take the height of that, which is just to call it 196 down to 185. So we'll call that 11 points. If it comes down here and breaks that, well, then your downside target would be 11 points lower. I personally am not really too interested in that time frame. If instead we took a look at, here's where we are in the intermediate term, we're right smack in the middle of that range. We're at the anchored volume weighted average price from the Fed. That's that purple line. We're above the rising 5-day moving average. We're just kind of digesting a little bit. It's way too early to call it a double top. If we start to break down further and we get trapped below a 5-day moving average, I'll change my mind. But for right now, we're just digesting gains through time so far.
So we've talked about, for you, Brian, how important that 5-day moving average is. You've gone over that a couple times, and I've actually put it on my chart now, so thanks for that. We really like that. All right, one more before I let you go. We haven't discussed this, so I'm going to catch you off guard a little bit. Tesla. I mean, I know you don't like the name. I've seen your tweets. It's not the greatest. It's been one of the weakest. There's talk about booting it out, or if the Mag 7 is Kramer's, it's already out. It's not performing like the rest of them. People are trying to catch this falling knife. Why? Because it's an AI play. People like Elon Musk. He's made people a lot of money. But you know, you get some you get Kathy Wood, you get some of these people just calling for the moon in this stock. Let's bring this back down to life a little bit here. If you come over to my charts, we had earnings right here. We slipped up from that. We lost the $200 level. We lost the 50. We lost the 200 a long time ago. And honestly, if people are thinking that it's going to hold this 160, hey, maybe it does. That's still a decent move down. But like, if we don't, then I just wonder about all the longs are trapped down here into a name that hasn't been loved. You know, what can you say to me about Tesla here and trying to buy some of these dips? Is it not time yet?
Sean, first off, I want to talk about Kathy Wood. I saw the best article yesterday. It called her the worst destroyer of wealth. And
I saw that. I think I like that
good
post.
to finally see some truth. That lady has gotten a pass. She is destroyed, and this is from Morningstar. She's destroyed in the ARK fund, $7 billion. Don't accept it unless you're.
I did not. I put it out. I did not. $8
billion has evaporated just in her one ARK fund.
Wow.
13 billion in her family of funds. Her track record's pathetic. So it really bothers me when people hold her up on this pedestal.
But Brian, remember, man,
Kathy says it's this and that.
She still gets to collect all those management fees, you know?
Exactly. And you know what? It's criminal, honestly. It seems criminal to me. If she just had a little bit of risk management and used an anchored VWAP or a couple moving averages, her results would be a lot better. Anyways, I digress there, Sean.
Okay, let's go. Yeah. What about Tesla here? Is there anything that you're seeing? You're going to talk about the 5-day moving average.
Tesla is right at its declining 5-day moving average. And, you know, we had a pretty good gap low last week, week and a half ago. And that gap low, what we often see is, you know, those initial buyers come in, they feel confident, and then they set their stop underneath that low. And inevitably, we come down and undercut that low. And that undercut right now came on lighter volume, number one. So you have that divergence. We had a strong source of supply here, not quite as strong. I think that it's in as good a position as it's been in for a potential long.
Okay.
Tomorrow we get rid of this data for the 5-day moving average calculation. So it should continue down. Maybe it does something like this tomorrow and then gets going on Thursday. Absolute worst case stop would be under here. If it makes a higher low in this zone, I would put it there. But just for a bounce, because we're below declining 20-day moving average, 50-day moving average, 200-day moving average. Money's flowing out of the stock. It's only a bounce trade if you get involved.
Brian, the chat loves you more now than they did before. So there it is, your hot take there on Kathy Wood. Look, great talk there on Tesla as well. But yeah, ARK, maybe the only one to invest in is ARK B, which would be the Bitcoin. Therefore, it just follows Bitcoin.
You know what? I considered that, and that was on my list. I'm bullish on Bitcoin here, but I think, and you were talking about IBIT earlier.
Yes, yeah, that's the one I like.
And if you pull up my screen real quick, I figured why give Kathy the management fees? She's already got enough. These things are all identical, so forget about that one. Go with IBIT.
Yeah, me too.
You can see that 5-day moving average is flattening out, and this green line is the anchored VWAP since inception. We're starting to hold above that for the first time since it came out, meaning buyers are regaining control. And I would say keep a very close eye on this for a break above probably 2480. Worst case stop down under here. Looks like it's going to probably get going here in the near term.
So I had your friend and a friend of the show as well, Michael Noss, on Monday, and he was talking about Bitcoin maybe in a little bit of a channel moving forward. So we'll see if that does happen. But I agree with you. I choose to trade with IBIT as well. It does a lot of volume. It's an iShare product, so it's all good. It's
Kathy doesn't get paid.
It's maximum trading gains with an anchored VWAP. Go find this man. Everyone's loving you on the chat. It's at Alpha Trend. It's Brian Shannon. Thank you once again for taking the time with us here today. You're one of the best, and I definitely appreciate your time on a weekly basis. Thank you so much, Brian.
Thank you, Sean. Take care, everybody.
The best in the business. That's Brian Shannon. Thank you, my friend.